What is the Russia view? What are they saying in the media and in the news, in the Kremlin, in Moscow, and in Russia?
Well, obviously, the Kremlin is extremely unhappy about this. The line from Dmitry Peskov, Vladimir Putin's spokesman, has been that it's the U.S. who created the crisis by arming and assisting Ukraine. It's the U.S. that's escalating it by these troop deployments. This is the irony of the position that Russia has taken. Russia's goal is to roll back the U.S. presence in Europe, to remove all the NATO deployments from Eastern Europe, from the countries that joined after 1997. But by going through with this huge buildup on the Russian border with Ukraine and in Belarus next door, Russia is, in a way, provoking exactly what it's trying to get rid of in the form of these NATO deployments.
It sounds like Vladimir Putin, who is kind of a, spin master, if you will, is trying to create internal optics that if there were to be actual fighting, that he could then say, to your point, I think, Max, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not our fault. The U.S. and the West provoked us. We were just hanging out in our own territory. They sent weapons and troops in. What else could we do? Is that kind of the spin and the shine that Putin is trying to put on this?
Oh, absolutely. I've heard this numerous times from sources, and Russia, they said publicly that they are not going to invade Ukraine, but they have vowed to defend the Russian-backed rebel-held territory in the Donbass in East Ukraine, where hundreds of thousands of people now have Russian passports since the war started in 2014 and Ukraine lost control of those territories. And Peskov, Putin's spokesman, said yesterday that the risk of conflict, which obviously they blame on Ukraine, is very high, higher than usual in that region. And the example that sources keep bringing up is Georgia in 2008, very similar story where you had these two rebel-held regions, and Russia essentially lured the president of Georgia into ordering an ill-advised military incursion that was then used as grounds for a full-on Russian invasion of the country. And with this buildup, they are certainly closer than they ever have been to launching something like that in Ukraine.
Is there any indication about what Putin may want with Ukraine? I know they can say we want to liberate the Russians who are, quote, trapped in Ukraine, but there is absolutely no indication that anybody in Ukraine wants Russia on a macro scale to come in. They don't have a lot of strategic assets. Russia already annexed Crimea in 2014. That's where most of the ports and the water are. What would be the goal here around Ukraine?
Well, this is really about more than Ukraine for Putin. This is about Russia's place in the world. This is about the whole European security architecture. This, for him, is about rolling back what he sees as the humiliation of Russia in the 1990s when the Soviet Union collapsed. Russia was weak, as Russia claims that the U.S. promised Gorbachev before the Soviet Union collapsed, and NATO would not expand beyond Germany. And this is about carving back a new sphere of influence for Russia in those countries, restoring these buffers against the West that they used to have in the Warsaw Pact. Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, he recently referred to these former Warsaw Pact countries like Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, as orphaned by the collapse of communism, which is certainly not how a lot of people in those countries see it. What's really worrying in a way, though, is that we know less and less of what Putin actually thinks. In December, he was very much out front on this issue, talking every few days, going on these quite long rants about his view of Ukrainian history and so on. This year, basically, we've barely seen him. He's made a few stage managed appearances, meeting a couple governors and things like that. But he hasn't really spoken in any lengthy way about the latest developments in the crisis. When you've seen the people from the Russian Foreign Ministry who've been leading negotiations with the U.S. and NATO about the security talks, it's quite clear that they don't know exactly what their mandate is, and he's got to decide.